I had this feeling of impending doom, like something awful was going to happen. I asked the guy, I said, am I having an event? Am I having a heart attack? And he said, yes, you are, but we're going to get you to the hospital and everything's going to be fine. They did chest compressions for about maybe 20 minutes, and they brought me back to life because I had coded blue 3 times. When he told me that I had died 3 times, it gives your life a whole different perspective in that moment. What they don't tell you about that is the anxiety that comes after that is worse than your heart attack. Oh, I was enjoying my life until my life was almost over. He broke several of his delicate instruments trying to drill through the plaque. It was so hard. He said it was almost like cement. If your stress level is so high to where you're suffering from it physically, what good are you to your family if you're dead?
Welcome to Stories and Stanza, a weekly podcast bringing you real stories from creators and speakers around the world. Hi, Michael. Welcome to Stories and Stanza. How are you doing today?
I am doing well, thank you.
Welcome to the show. And could you give us a brief introduction and suggest what we are going to talk about in this episode, please?
Okay, well, my name is Mike Preston. I'm here in the United States of America, and live in a state called Texas, and a town called Frisco. We're going to talk about something that happened to me a little while ago, about a heart attack that I had, and I wanted to share with the folks on here about the onset, the trials, the successes of it. But there was heart failure, so it keeps in line with the title of the show. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting with you and hearing your story. Just briefly for you, why I chose this title, Fail With Me, for this series, is that I see that a lot of motivational writers, speakers, they assume that the reader or the audience is doing something wrong, and they tend to get very preachy and they say that yeah, you're doing this wrong and you have to do this right. And which is when I had this idea that if I ever write my story, I'll call it Fail With Me, because it is so full with failures and it'll give my readers a reason to attach to my story. And then we see that what are the uh, learnings hidden underneath, and how do we come out of the stigma from failure. So that was the idea, and gradually I brought that into my podcast, and my guests felt that they connect with that narrative, and which is why I have been doing this, and I've done about 20 odd episodes at least on the Fail With Me theme with guests from all over the world. So that's a little bit of background from my side. The first thing I wanted to ask you is, how does that idea sound to you? What do you feel about it?
Well, now that you explained it, it makes a lot of sense to me now. There's triumph out of the failure, no matter what the failure is. And I like what you said before about people being preachy, but when you get real people on here that have the real experiences, people can feel it a whole lot better.
Thank you. And one of the reasons is that, like, when we talk about failure openly, then it probably helps someone who is going through the similar situation. And I feel that when you share your journey, that would be definitely useful to someone going through the similar path in their life. So I look forward to hearing from you. And can you talk about your personal journey as to how was your health before the attack and when it happened?
Well, here's the thing about that. I have always been a big proponent of health. And I was an athlete in high school. I was an athlete in college, so I knew how to take care of my body. Um, I thought I was eating the right things, but the standard American diet which also stands for SAD, which is sad. It was a sad diet. And over the years, it took its toll on me. I went to the doctor, every year. I got a good checkup until I reached my 40s and 50s. And then things started to change. They said that I had high blood pressure. And so, they gave me some pills for that. But then we'll talk about later about the racial aspect of, those prescriptions. But overall, I was in good health.
And then tell us about when it happened and how did you slowly came out of that treatment?
Okay, unbeknownst to me, there were several warning signs before the heart attack that I kind of dismissed as maybe the flu or, being lightheaded and dizzy. Um, Maybe one of the viruses, because this was during the time of the coronavirus. So I'm thinking maybe I had a remnant of that. And so a couple of weeks before, or even a month before, uh, got dressed to go to work because I'm a school teacher. I got dressed to go to work and I felt lightheaded and very nauseous. And so I called off a couple of days and got myself together. Then the weeks passed again, but this time on October 11th in 2021, it was a different kind of feeling. So I got up, got dressed. I was in the back part of the house, um, changing and getting prepared to go. And all of a sudden, um, I got really, really nauseous. And then I felt I had a strong urge to go to the bathroom. So I did that. But as I was using the bathroom, um, chills came over me. I got lightheaded. And as I was walking toward the back bedroom, the thing that was different was I had this feeling of impending doom, like something awful was going to happen. So I was banging on the wall. I said, Greta, Greta. I said, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. There's something wrong. And so she came running. She said, Michael, what's wrong? So then I collapsed on the bed. I didn't lose consciousness, but I collapsed on the bed and I look on the floor and there were heavy, heavy droplets of sweat on the floor. And my heart was beating a mile a minute. I'm talking like over 120, 130 beats per minute. And then I started breathing. My breathing was labored. And so the ambulance, they got there and they got there within like 2 minutes because I live hardly anywhere from the fire department. And they came and they took my IV. I mean, they took my blood pressure reading. It took and gave me a shot to kind of calm my heart rate down. And I asked the guy, I said, "Am I having an event? Am I having a heart attack?" And he said, "Yes, you are, but we're going to get you to the hospital and everything's going to be fine." So, in the movies, when a person has a heart attack, they show them clutching their chest or they're clutching their left arm because that's usually a sign of something's going wrong with your left arm. But I didn't feel any of that. I didn't have any pain. The only thing I had was the nausea and the feeling that something really bad was going to happen, like I was minutes away from death. I get to the hospital, and on this Monday morning at 8 o'clock, I find that after talking with the nurses, that the emergency department is never staffed with a cardiologist and cardio people. They're never there. But on the
Wow.
day that I went, there was a full complement of two cardiac surgeons, his nursing staff, and everyone there. So I'm talking with the doctor, and he says, "Yeah, you're really having a heart attack, Mike." He says, "Is this what you're going to do to try to get out of work? Is that what this is?" And we just started laughing and joking around. Next thing I know, we're talking, we're chopping it up verbally, and next thing I know, I'm gone. They did chest compressions, and they used a defibrillator on me 3 times. They did chest compressions for about maybe 20 minutes, and they brought me back to life because I had coded blue 3 times. So I get up to the cath lab, And they're doing all this to me. And then I wake up and I'm thinking I just passed out for a moment. I was out of my head. I was unconscious for 9 hours while they worked on me.
Wow.
And I didn't know that I had died until the nurses told me that I had died. And in those moments, um, when you have a heart attack or you hear about people, dropping dead all of a sudden, that is what it is from. I had my major artery to my heart, 100% blockage. So they went in and put in about 4 to 5 stents to open that pathways back up. But so that's how it happened in the beginning. So that's what happened in the beginning.
And when you regained consciousness, how did that feel like? Did you remember anything? What were you feeling okay? Did it affect you in any way?
Well, I remember when I came out of it, I thought I was choking. And then I heard the nurse say, "Push it out, Mr. Preston, push it out, push it out." So what they were doing, I was intubated. So they had to pull the trach out because I guess I woke up unexpectedly. My wife told me that when she was speaking to me when my eyes were closed, she said that was what triggered me coming out of the sedation. And so I coughed up and pushed out the trach as they told me to. And so then after that, I'm fully awake. And I remember that my chest felt like someone had beat me with a baseball bat. And then that's when she told me about the chest compressions and then the defibrillator being used on me, so many times. And but I knew something was wrong is when I saw all these wires and tubes and everything coming out of my arm and everything. But the telltale sign was when my nose was itching, and I couldn't use my left hand because I had all the um, the instrumentation coming out of my arm. So my right hand was kind of free. So I don't know if you can see it, but I was moving my hand like this to scratch my nose. I'm like, what's taking me so long to scratch my nose? And my finger just kept going slow, slow, and slow motion. Well, my doctor told me it was like rebooting a computer when I was out for that length of time. It said my body shut down, my brain shut down, still had oxygen to my brain, but everything got reset. So he said things are going to come back slowly. And when he told me that I had died 3 times, it gives your life a whole different perspective in that moment.
It certainly does, and it's a sign that something has happened, and you are blessed to have that gift, to have a second chance at life, I guess. And then tell me about the recovery from there, like from the day of the attack, and then where you are today. You had frequent hospital visits, and then the associated challenges began after the first step from coming back from death. Wanted to hear your challenges in that space.
Well, once I was stabilized and I came back from, as you said, from death, literally, that's when the challenges began. Now, before the heart attack, I was weighing close to 190 pounds on a 5'8" frame, like 5 feet tall, 8 inches. And that's kind of a lot of weight to be packing on, a small frame like that. But I was still muscular, wasn't considered fat, as fat, but it was still heavy. At the end of the journey, my lowest weight got down to 145. That was from fluid loss. That was also from my stomach being paralyzed to where I couldn't eat. Because again, remember, my whole body had shut down. So it was slowly rebooting. And so I got back. I got on like tons, like maybe 15 medications immediately after the heart attack. But toward the end of it, I am now down to just three. Um, that is a cholesterol blocker, torvastatin, and then like Plavix, a blood thinner, and then metoprolol for the pace and rhythm of my heart to keep the beats per minute down. So during this time of coming back, I must have totaled 17 to 25 emergency room visits.
Oh,
Yeah,
and that's
because they
over
told me,
1 year, 2 year period.
no, that's over a 2.5 year period.
Right.
And so the only reason why I went back is because every small little uh, pain that I had in my chest or um, any rapid heartbeat that I couldn't account for, I would go back to the emergency room because they told me from what I had, they want to keep an eye on me. And they said, it doesn't matter how many times you come back, we want to see you. So I took them up on that offer. And so, but every time I went, it was a false alarm. Every time I went, my readings were better than they were the last time I was there. But in my mind, there was something going on. And what they don't tell you is and I'm kind of not angry, but disappointed. What they don't tell you about that is the anxiety that comes after that is worse than your heart attack. Because the anxiety it represented with me like my blood pressure would be like, say, 120 over 80, the textbook number. But every time toward nightfall, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I am anticipating that I have to go to sleep. So in that anticipation, I'm thinking, man, I don't want to go to sleep. Something may happen. So I take my blood pressure at night and it's like 150 over 101. But then in the morning when I wake up, it's back to normal.
Oh,
And
how
so
does it
one
shoot
of the
up like
nurses,
that?
because that was the anxiety, I'm thinking in my subconscious, I'm I must be reliving that trauma. One of the nurses who I became friends with, she said, Michael, consciously, you do not remember what happened. But when you go to sleep, your body remembers what happened. So what your body was doing, it was anticipating something happening and it gave you that fight or flight response. And so I was always I guess my body was in the fight response, but there was never a fight. There was never something that I was fleeing from. So it's kind of like you hear a dog barking, a vicious dog barking, and it's coming closer, but you never see the dog. So you're anticipating running from the dog, but you never see the dog.
Yeah.
So that's what it was like. And so it took a while. I went to some internet counselors, talk to them online. They were not that much of help, but the biggest help I got was from the heart attack survivor community on Facebook. I found a community of people who went through the same thing that I went through. So we're talking, they're giving me advice, but each and every person says, we are not doctors, we are just expressing our experiences so to let you know that you are not alone. And I would have to say that the heart attack group was instrumental in me coming back to my mental health. Along with, I had to take some anxiety pills, I had to take some Xanax to calm my mind. And I was never a pill popper, so I didn't like taking those medications, but I had to. So that was that journey from the uh, from the heart attack.
And why was there this area of misinformation, do you think, now that you look back?
There was my doctor in Illinois, and she was the gatekeeper of my health. But one thing that she did not do was give me a stronger remedy for the cholesterol buildup I guess I was having. She was concerned about the blood pressure. And then there's a racial component that I talked about earlier.
Yes.
Um, she said that people of Pakistani descent, people, East Indian people, African Americans, basically people of color, um, are genetically predisposed to having high blood pressure. Well, me being an educator and a teacher for the past 25 years, that did not sit well with me. That just did not make any sense that just because my skin is brown, that I just automatically have high blood pressure. She said it's hereditary. So I did my own research, and she was halfway correct. It is hereditary, but it's the foods that we eat in our heritage that we pass on from generation to generation that causes this blockage. In the African American community, we eat a lot of fried, greasy food, high sugar content, high salt content. When you do your research and you find out what those things do to your body on a daily basis, we drink. Some people, you've seen people go to the grocery store and they're buying 24 packs of soda. One can of soda has like 4 cups of sugar in it. So imagine the person drinking that for the next 2 weeks. And then every time we get together, what do? We eat, and not the most healthy foods out there in the
Yeah.
market. So yeah, what is hereditary? It is the foods that we eat, not because we're born into a certain ethnic group. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is it's been proven, even with my own daughter having twins, that doctors who do not look like us treat us differently than patients who look like them. And so there was this I'm not going to say an unwritten rule, but unwritten information or written information, but a lot of doctors who don't look like us think that Black people endure pain better than other people.
Oh no.
Yeah. So they treat us this way. So say, for example, like when my daughter was in pain with her first child, she said the nurses treated her indifferently. When she said, "Hey, I'm in a lot of pain, or the medication that you gave me before the procedure has not taken effect," and then they'll say to her, "Oh no, honey, you're wrong. It makes your body numb within 10 minutes." He says, "Well, I'm not numb yet, and I can feel what you're trying to do is not ready yet." And they dismissed her. They dismissed her claim that she was
Oh
in
no.
pain. And so if you do the research and look it up online, you'll see that that case is true all across the nation. Prime example, the world tennis star Serena Williams told her doctors that she was in distress. They did not believe her, and she almost died because they felt indifferent toward her.
I didn't know that. That's unbelievable.
Yes, that is prevalent within the medical community.
Wow.
And so what getting back to your original question, I had to take complete control of my health. So now, since the heart attack, I do not have any high blood pressure anymore. I am no longer diabetic. My weight has leveled off to 160, from close to being 190. I walk every day. My diet, I guard it fiercely because I used to eat, I'm not going to lie to you, I used to eat like a pound of bacon every 2 days. I would eat an entire pizza every Friday. Uh, had pancakes, butter, syrup, 3 days a week. Oh, I was enjoying my life until my life was almost over.
um, thank you for sharing your journey with us. That's amazing, and in a way, it's a reality check as well for us living our day-to-day life, and we never know that what direction our body is taking, how our body is coping up with our habits and everything. Um,
I can tell you if someone has high blood pressure, and I talked with my cardiologist about this, he basically said that high blood pressure is a direct result of the narrowing of the arteries because the blood has to have more pressure to push that blood flow through the clogged arteries. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you played with a water hose when you were a kid. I know I did. And so you know how you put your thumb over the mouth of it,
hmm.
and then the back pressure will force it out more forcefully. So you have more pressure coming from that hose. Then if you let your thumb up, it flows freely, not that much pressure. Our arteries are the same exact way. So when those arteries are like this and they get congested and they close down, it's trying to squeeze out. So it requires more pressure to push that blood flow through. So I would advise anybody, talk to your cardiologist and think about getting an angiogram. It shows you what's going on with your arteries. Um, take total control over what you're eating, because I lost like over 35 pounds and I didn't work out, didn't go to the gym, wasn't lifting weights. It's just everything that I put in my mouth, I had to watch that.
I wanted to ask you something throughout this journey of getting the attack, and then all these hospital visits, these challenges with your physical health and mental health. What was your
Mm-hmm.
support system like? You told me about your wife, your daughter, but who was the
Mm-hmm.
strongest in that support system? How did you cope up? You mentioned about the
Ah,
community.
I would have to say the strongest thing that got me through everything, number one, was through prayer and meditation. I read biblical scriptures on health every day, every morning, every night. I thank God every time I open my eyes. I gave him credit for the breath of life. Um, again, read scriptures on health and living and food and dieting. Um, my cardiologist became one of my good friends, so we're friends now. The attending nurse, who was the original nurse for the heart attack, who was in the operating room, she is now a personal friend of mine. Um, my immediate family, like I said, my wife and my daughters, um, my one of my newer friends here down in Texas, they were close. Um, and one thing I didn't say was I had a second heart attack
Oh,
on February 27th of this year because I had gone back to work, just on a part-time basis because I was semi-retired. And so I said, well, let me do something else. So I was working in IT as a dispatcher, and I didn't think it was a stressful job because it was at home. So I'm sitting in my nice, comfortable office and everything. Didn't realize that that second heart attack was because of that job. So my doctor said, Mike, I went in with the instrumentation because he wanted to do another uh, cath and clean out the artery that was blocked before because it became occluded again. And he said that he broke several of his delicate instruments trying to drill through the plaque. It was so hard. He said it was
oh
almost
wow.
like cement. Yeah. So he said, well, wait a minute. You're eating right. You're exercising regularly. So what exactly is going on here? So he asked me about my work environment. And I told him, and he said, Mike, what's happening is um, you're having stress hormones flooding your body, like cortisol. That kind of helps clog your arteries again, not from food because of stress. He said, stress causes people to die in very stressful jobs. He said, so what happened was it wasn't from the food, it was from the stress from your second job that I'm going to advise you. You need to let that job go, or I'm going to be coming to your funeral. So when he told me that, I immediately quit that job on the spot and told my wife, okay, honey, I am fully retired. Now, because I knew it was the job this time around, because as soon as I quit that job, I have not had another uh, emergency room visit moment ever again.
Wow.
So I'm telling anyone out there, you may be making high dollar amounts, but if your stress level is so high to where you're suffering from it physically, what good are you to your family if you're dead? What good are you to your family if you're gone? So I'm going to say this. We moved out of our 4-bedroom home in a nice neighborhood, let all of the trappings of that home ownership, we let it all go. And we moved into a 2-bedroom luxury apartment, has all amenities. We don't have to pay for lawn service, none of those extra payments that come on with home ownership. And we are living our best life. So, I have a pension. So the pension takes care of everything, and we have much more left over since we um, don't have the house anymore. And then you find out that you really don't need all the trappings that come along with life, like the 2, 3 cars, the huge, ridiculous mortgage payments, plus insurance. Believe it or not, all of those are stressors. So we don't have that anymore. And life is so much better without all of that stuff.
Thank you for sharing that. I think your story would definitely resonate with the listeners and someone going through a similar phase in their life. And thank you for taking the time to talk the stories and Stanza.
Sure, I hope it helps someone.
I'm sure it will. Okay. We're coming to the end of our meeting. It's giving me a 4 minute left in this slot, and yeah. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, and to the listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. It was an honor speaking with you. And maybe one day I can get out to Australia.
Definitely, definitely.